We have to make sure that the politicians are held accountable.
Every administration had the ability to put a ban on asbestos.
When it comes to asbestos, it really is about power, money, and politics.
And next is Barry Robson from Australia, President of the Asbestos Disease Foundation there.
Thanks, Barry. It's always strange to be introduced by another Barry. Good on you, Bazza, as we say in Australia. Thanks, Linda, once again for the invitation to address the conference. And last year, I didn't like doing it by Skype. You know, I really didn't. The ban. With the news from our comrades that Brazil is going to racing towards a complete ban, and our Canadian comrades are heading that way. And with the way things are happening here in America, the midterm elections, there could be some joy for our American people to have a ban. Well, we've had our ban in Australia since 2003. And the activists and the trade unions that helped get that ban in place, what we realised when that ban was in place, that the problem hasn't gone away. If not, it's increased with the problems we're having maintaining the ban, a total ban. Not one where a product can be brought across our border with a certificate saying it's got 1% asbestos in it, and that's fine. Our ban in Australia is a total 100% ban, and that's what it means. But this industry, this asbestos industry, as with Chris and the thing with Rob Moore, what a nice piece of bloody work he was, you know. Yeah, you know, it was funny. Two people warned me about that grub. One was Linda. When I got here, she said, there's a character running around, I don't trust him, but just be careful. And that was in the April. In the May, when I was in Geneva on a delegation to the Rotterdam Convention, he turned up and infiltrated himself into all the delegations that were going to the convention, this grub. Anyway, he'll you know, I believe in karma. He'll get it. But the point is the ban. We left it a little bit too late to realise, and we lost 12 years to set up an agency, a federal government agency to oversee the ban. Because like here in America, you've got different states, and the same in Brazil, there's different states, and the same in Australia. And we have, each state has got its own regulators, its own laws and all that. By having this federal agency, we managed to bring them all together. That's not only to keep the ban in place and police it, but also to start eradicating it from the landscape. And by that I mean the built-up landscape, the houses, the factories, the defence buildings, and all the things that contain asbestos. That plan is in place and it's starting to be rolled out. So I'm mentioning this to the people from Brazil and Colombia and the Canadians. Having this agency, having this standalone agency is the way to control it. That's what we've found. As I said, we left it a little bit too late. It took us 12 years to catch up to get this agency in place. It's been in place now nearly 6 years. And what we found was the bureaucracy, the Australian government bureaucracy, has become an enemy of the agency. And it's just purely jealousy. Because before we got the agency as a standalone government department, it was a two-man desk job in another government department. It was taken out of that department, expanded and set up as a standalone. Them bureaucrats have never forgotten that, and they've gone out of their way to try and drag that agency back under their control. So not only the activists and the unions have been fighting to keep the borders secure from asbestos coming in, but we had a bloody shit fight on our hands with our own government bureaucracy trying to destroy the agency. And it was just purely political stuff. We needed this agency. Chris Walker mentioned the problem with the mine in Vermont. We got 3 of them in Australia. The most deadly one is on the west coast at Wittenoon, and the one that Chris mentioned, Bayugal, that only employed Aboriginals. And we got another one called Wood Reef, that's also in New South Wales. And it's the same problem that Chris Walker mentioned and shown the slides. When you go into I got called to do a town meeting at Wood Reef, at a little town called Barraba, and you couldn't convince the town people that they were living with a time bomb. When I told them that 7 miners had run and won a compensation case, the ex-manager of the mine, who happens to be a Canadian, challenged me. He said, "Will you supply me the names of the victims, and I'll prove you wrong." Well, under the privacy laws, I don't know their names, but these people are in denial. And the same characters running around this township telling them they can reopen the mine and extract magnesium. The same story that Chris Walker told. We got the same character running around down there. And these townspeople just, you can't convince them. Cannot convince them. So, the agency, please start agitating now for an agency to look after the ban, because this industry will try and find a way around it. We've had 3 tugboats come in. We've had 8 diesel locomotives come in. We've had children's crayons come into the country. We've had building cladding come in. We've had switchgear, electrical switchgear come in. And even the switchgear had warning asbestos, and it still got through. So you need this agency to bring all of the forces together to protect the ban, because this asbestos industry will go to every length to beat your ban. Trust me. They're doing it down in Australia. I think I've got 2 minutes left, haven't I?
Are you showing your film?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yep. Just before you start it, a quick explanation. We got some money from the agency to do some public education, and instead of doing the old blue collar, showing the worker at work doing asbestos, because of the rise in statistics of women now presenting with asbestos-related disease, we thought it was about time that we showed a victim from a woman's perspective. And this is Serafina's story.
I've been around 9 years. When I was diagnosed, my prognosis was most likely 2 years. Over time, I've had my right lung taken out, I've had my diaphragm taken out, I've had my right kidney taken out, I'm missing a few lower ribs on the right side. I've got half a liver at the moment. So I've had really, really aggressive surgery. But it keeps coming back, and that's the problem. There is no cure for it, so. I was born in the late 1960s, so I grew up in a time where asbestos was everywhere. So my father, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, he bought his first car and we needed a garage, so Dad built it himself. And I remember my brothers and I playing in the backyard while my dad cut the sheets. There was a lot of dust, there was offcuts everywhere, and my brothers and I played with it. That's where they think I probably contracted mesothelioma. I was told when I was diagnosed that the best they can do is buy me some time. You know, it's cancer. It's cancer. There is no cure for mesothelioma or for any of the other asbestos-related diseases, so that's why prevention is really, really critical. Once upon a time, it used to be the factory workers, the tradespeople, the builders, the carpenters who used to contract the diseases, and now they're finding what they're calling the third wave of asbestos victims, and that's people who are DIY, sort of home renovators. The main thing is if people are renovating at home, to be extremely careful and to find out where the asbestos is and wherever possible to call a professional in to deal with it. I don't know why I've ended up with an asbestos-related disease. It's really challenging and it's really difficult. And it has such a huge impact on your life, but things do happen for a reason, and maybe, you know, telling my story might help somebody, so that's the positive that'll come out of it, hopefully.
The Australian Asbestos Disease Eradication Agency, is that what it's called, is really remarkable by consolidating the rules for asbestos abatement in buildings. Instead of having 6 states with their separate rules and incompetent bureaucracies, to set one set of rules nationwide, created, really in a large way, created the industries that were needed of inspection, of sampling and analysis laboratories, and all the other things that go into having a proper national program of asbestos abatement. So it's really been remarkable what they've been able to do in Australia in the past few years.